Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
The role of sociolinguistics in discourse analysis. Sociolinguistics significantly contributes to discourse analysis by examining how language use varies across different social contexts and how these variations reflect and shape social identities, relationships, and structures. By integrating sociolinguistic insights, discourse analysts can better understand the dynamic interplay between language, society, and culture, and how these elements influence the production and interpretation of discourse. 1. Key contributions of sociolinguistics to discourse analysis. Language variation and change. Sociolinguistics studies how language varies and changes across different social groups and contexts. This includes dialectal variation, how regional, social, and ethnic dialects influence discourse patterns. Sociolects and idiolects. The unique language varieties associated with particular social groups, sociolects, or individuals, idiolects. Language change. How social factors drive changes in language over time, influencing how discourse evolves. Social identity and group membership. Language is a crucial marker of social identity and group membership. Sociolinguistics helps discourse analysts explore how language constructs and reflects identities, including ethnic identity, how language use signals belonging to a particular ethnic group. Gender and language, how linguistic practices reflect and construct gender identities and roles. Age and generation, how language varies across different age groups and generations, influencing communication styles and preferences. Power and hierarchies. Sociolinguistics examines how language reflects and reinforces social hierarchies and power dynamics. This involves politeness and formality, how different levels of formality and politeness in language use reflect social hierarchies and relationships. Language and authority, how linguistic features can convey authority or subordination in different contexts. Code switching and code mixing, how shifting between languages or dialects can signal social identities, power relations, and contextual appropriateness. Speech communities and networks. Sociolinguistics explores how language use is influenced by membership in speech communities and social networks. This includes community norms, the shared linguistic norms and practices within a speech community. Language and social networks, how individuals' language use is shaped by their social networks and the strength of their ties within those networks. Community of practice, how groups of people engaged in a common activity develop shared ways of using language. 2. Methods integrating sociolinguistics and discourse analysis. Variationist sociolinguistics. Variationist sociolinguistics studies the systematic variation in language use and its social correlates. In discourse analysis, this method helps to identify patterns, detect patterns of variation in discourse according to social variables such as age, gender, ethnicity, and social class. Analyze contexts. Understand how different contexts influence language choices and discourse practices. Ethnographic methods. Ethnographic methods involve detailed, context-rich studies of language use within specific communities. This includes participant observation, immersing oneself in a community to observe and document natural language use. Interviews and surveys, collecting data on language attitudes and practices from community members. Field notes and recordings, capturing authentic language use and contextual information for detailed analysis. Interactional sociolinguistics. Interactional sociolinguistics focuses on the detailed analysis of face-to-face interactions to understand how language constructs social meaning. This involves conversational analysis, examining the structure and organization of talk and interaction. Contextualization cues, identifying linguistic and non-linguistic signals that help participants interpret interactions. Cross-cultural communication, studying how cultural differences influence communication patterns and misunderstandings. Corpus linguistics, Corpus linguistics involves the analysis of large collections of texts, corpora, to study patterns and trends in language use. This method helps to quantify variations, measure the frequency and distribution of linguistic features across different social groups and contexts, compare corpora, analyze differences and similarities in language use across various corpora representing different communities or contexts. 3. Applications of sociolinguistic insights in discourse analysis. Media and communication. Sociolinguistics helps to analyze how media discourse reflects and influences social identities and norms. This includes representation of social groups, how different social groups are portrayed in the media. Language and ideology, how media discourse perpetuates or challenges social ideologies and stereotypes. Public discourse, how media shapes public opinion and discourse on social issues. Education. In educational settings, sociolinguistic insights are used to understand how language shapes teaching and learning. This involves classroom interaction, how teacher-student and student-student interactions reflect and reinforce social identities and power dynamics. Language policy, how language policies in education impact social equity and inclusion. Multilingual education, how language diversity in the classroom affects teaching and learning practices. Workplace communication. Sociolinguistics provides insights into how language is used in professional settings to construct social identities and manage interactions. This includes organizational hierarchies, how language reflects and reinforces organizational structures and power relations. Professional jargon, how specialized language creates in-groups and out-groups within professional communities. Intercultural communication, how cultural differences impact communication in globalized workplaces. Conclusion. Sociolinguistics plays a crucial role in discourse analysis by providing a framework for understanding the social dimensions of language use. By examining language variation, social identity, power dynamics, and community norms, sociolinguistic insights help discourse analysts uncover the complex relationships between language, society, and culture. This interdisciplinary approach enriches the analysis of discourse, offering deeper insights into how language functions to construct and maintain social realities across different contexts. Frequently asked questions. How does sociolinguistics contribute to discourse analysis? Sociolinguistics contributes to discourse analysis by examining how language use varies across different social contexts and how these variations reflect and shape social identities, relationships, and structures. Integrating sociolinguistic insights helps discourse analysts understand the dynamic interplay between language, society, and culture, influencing the production and interpretation of discourse. What is the significance of language variation and change in discourse analysis? Language variation and change are significant in discourse analysis as they reveal how language differs across social groups and contexts, and how these differences influence discourse. Sociolinguists study dialectal variation, regional, social, and ethnic dialects that shape discourse patterns. Sociolects and idiolects, language varieties associated with particular social groups or individuals. Language change, how social factors drive changes in language over time, affecting discourse evolution. How does language construct social identity and group membership? Language is a crucial marker of social identity and group membership. Sociolinguistics helps discourse analysts explore how language constructs and reflects identities, including ethnic identity, signaling belonging to specific ethnic groups. Gender and language, reflecting and constructing gender identities and roles. Age and generation, variations in language use across age groups and generations, influencing communication styles and preferences. What role does language play in reflecting power and hierarchies? Language reflects and reinforces social hierarchies and power dynamics. Sociolinguists study politeness and formality, levels of formality and politeness in language use that reflect social hierarchies and relationships. Language and authority, linguistic features that convey authority or subordination in different contexts. Code switching and code mixing, shifting between languages or dialects to signal social identities, power relations, and contextual appropriateness. How do speech communities and networks influence language use? Speech communities and social networks shape language use by establishing shared norms and practices. Sociolinguists examine community norms, the linguistic norms and practices within a speech community. Language and social networks, how individuals' language use is influenced by their social networks and ties. Community of practice, how groups engaged in common activities develop shared ways of using language. What methods integrate sociolinguistics and discourse analysis? Methods that integrate sociolinguistics and discourse analysis include variationist sociolinguistics. Studies systematic variation in language use and its social correlates to identify patterns and analyze contexts. Ethnographic methods. Detailed, context-rich studies of language use within specific communities, using participant observation, interviews, and field notes. Interactional sociolinguistics. Detailed analysis of face-to-face interactions to understand how language constructs social meaning, using conversational analysis and contextualization cues. Corpus linguistics. Analysis of large text collections to study patterns and trends in language use, quantifying variations and comparing different corpora. How do sociolinguistic insights apply to media and communication discourse analysis? Sociolinguistic insights help analyze how media discourse reflects and influences social identities and norms by examining representation of social groups, portrayal of different social groups in the media. Language and ideology. How media discourse perpetuates or challenges social ideologies and stereotypes. Public discourse. Influence of media on public opinion and discourse on social issues. What is the role of sociolinguistics in educational discourse analysis? In educational settings, sociolinguistics helps understand how language shapes teaching and learning processes, including classroom interaction, teacher-student and student-student interactions reflecting and reinforcing social identities and power dynamics. Language policy. Impact of language policies on social equity and inclusion in education. Multilingual education. Effects of language diversity on teaching and learning practices. How does sociolinguistics inform workplace communication analysis? Sociolinguistics provides insights into language use in professional settings, focusing on organizational hierarchies. How language reflects and reinforces organizational structures and power relations. Professional jargon. Specialized language creating in groups and out-groups within professional communities. Intercultural communication. Impact of cultural differences on communication in globalized workplaces. Why is sociolinguistics essential in discourse analysis? Sociolinguistics is essential in discourse analysis because it provides a framework for understanding the social dimensions of language use. By examining language variation, social identity, power dynamics, and community norms, sociolinguistic insights help discourse analysts uncover the complex relationships between language, society, and culture. This interdisciplinary approach enriches discourse analysis, offering deeper insights into how language functions to construct and maintain social realities across different contexts.